Hi, everyone. Welcome to Freebird Spirit YouTube channel. Thank you for swinging by and hanging out for a little bit. This is in response to a lot of comments, and I appreciate that, of folks who really did want to hear a little bit more about Sasha Riley and their story. They do go by they, them. Their whole name is William Sasha Riley, and that's important for a little bit later in the story here. That is their adopted name, Riley. So you may find their name, a different name also written out. So just wanted to throw that in. First off, their courage of sharing their story is beyond words. And it has just exploded the internet, the social media, but it also is such a beautiful open door. I can't tell you how many folks have reached out and shared their stories of their traumatic experiences, as Sasha has opened that door for folks to share, and that people are listening. It's kind of like, oh, that happened to me too, or I've had similar, like that type of thing. And so it offers a platform for folks who have had that trauma and held it in because of how the world responds to that type of trauma, which we are going to change. But I think it's just beautiful that has, something tragic has opened a door for folks for deeper healing and to be able to share their story without shame and all the things that come with it. Fear, all the things. So for them to share their story it goes far beyond just the story. It is a ripple effect for those who also have had experienced horrible traumas as well. They knew what it would cost them to share their story. They have been trying to speak their story over a decade now. So this isn't just a brand new thing that just kind of showed up on the internet right now. So that's one thing you need to know. They have been trying to share their story for over a decade, calling out the same names, it's been very consistent. And another thing, this is doing, breaking the silence, and it's, it really is hitting now, which is, it's okay. I understand that they've been speaking this out for over a decade, but breaking the silence is breaking a system that likes to keep things in silence. So that's important. So I do want to speak to, the reality of trauma and silence and all the things through a psychological lens. And I will get to that, but I want to talk a little bit more in regard to Sasha and their story. And then we'll kind of swing back to that. I'm trying to navigate this the best I can. How hard it is to come out and speak a story. Speak your truth. Speak what happened to you. It's hard enough. But when it's so big and it involves some powerful people, you can imagine so Sasha knew what they were getting into. They knew that the scrutiny, they understood the backlash, they understood also putting their own life in danger to the point of having to move and flee. And that makes sense to the level of trafficking that they were involved in. Um, the there's different levels of what you are used for in this type of trafficking that they speak of. And the level he was at, um, they're lucky to be alive because many did not make it out. Uh, he shares seeing people, they make like films were made, the in that industry, the ones where they unalive people in the film, the sexual films, the pornography films, they have names for all of it. So, all that stuff comes from somewhere, right? So part of that industry was also part of what was happening here. It's not the whole, it's just a piece. There's so much more to it, and it goes very, very dark. Um, but the the abuse was real, and the trauma, the body trauma, all of it that they experienced, they share. Um, and they share that, that it happened to others that they knew and saw. Uh, they also speak to, you know, CPS being involved with them on several different occasions. And I'll get into that too, a little bit more of kind of some of, you know, some of the receipts he has to kind of back up. But in general, no one's going to come out and start speaking and saying, this is what happened to me just because. Because again, you're under so much scrutiny, putting yourself at risk even more, and then all the stuff that comes with that. So um, they also spoke to some things in regard to similar to the Hunger Games, which makes sense too. It makes you kind of shake your head with 45 wanting young kids to come in and do these compete against each other, and the wrestling thing and all that stuff. He wants to have like this event with all that going on. But in this, in these parties or whatever you want to call them, these gatherings that they would have, and again, there's different layers. So you may hear someone's testimony that well, they were brought in, uh, you know, to massage and do sexual things and like that kind of thing, and then you have another layer where it gets worse, and then it gets worse, and then it gets worse. So so you might hear testimony that's not as severe as Sasha's. It doesn't it doesn't discount their testimony. Different party. Do you understand? So in these parties, they would have like where they put um, these kids against each other, and whether it was fight to the death, or but similar to those types of things. Um, Again, if you want to know more, I'm just trying to give you an idea. Okay. And then you can, because it's a lot to grasp as reality. Um, and, um, and that's okay because you shouldn't, you know what I mean? It's traumatic, but it is real. And these things did happen. So, um, he speaks to many times um, being so beaten, he thought he was going to die, right? Um, he talks about his stepdad, who is William Riley, who is found in the files. Um, you know, he was a pilot apparently for this whole thing, and he would bring victims as well as perpetrators. He would fly them and do all the things. So he's a big part of it. He was also used as a fixer. So the stepdad who adopted him, I, I believe it was at the age of 4, and directly started selling him to people to use. So that's also part of his story. Let's look at some names. Um, uh, he named these names. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein, of course, Donald Trump, and he has a big story about Donald Trump and a tent stake. And supposedly, um, it's a time when he fought back. Okay. Um, Anyways, we'll move on. He names Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs one time came in. He was afraid of Andy Biggs. Uh, he was brutal. He called Donald Trump the most outrageous monster of all, or whatever. Um, just a monster. Out of all the things he experienced and all the people that he experienced with, 45 was, he said, an absolute monster. And that's why he fought back that one time and he tried to kill him with a tent stake. Okay, so then we have, so Andy Biggs, I guess, beat him one time so bad that he literally almost died. And then he named Jim Jordan, which at the time, Jim Jordan would have only been about, I think he was about 7 years older than him, but he was a part of it. He also, he had a fear of Jim Jordan because he was strong, fast, and could wrestle. And, and so in these, when I told you, like the Hunger Games, where they'd have these rings of, um, he was up against, I guess, Jim Jordan at the time. And so he tells a story about that. Okay. He also names Lindsey Graham. And he also names Clarence Thomas. And if you remember, Anita Hill in 1991 and her testimony, go back and listen to her testimony against Clarence Thomas. It'll reveal a lot. Okay. So those are the, so far, that's what I have. There might be more, but those are the ones I have that I remember. So some of the evidence that he shared, some of the collaborating evidence that they share, that kind of will collaborate. And, because people are like, well, I can't really say if he's telling the truth until it's verified. I hate that. It's like, how about the perpetrator? You know what I mean? Like, it's always the victim. Well, can it be yeah. I mean, it's one of the narratives that need to shift. But some of the stuff that they share, their medical records, um, the CPS records and their involvements in multiple states. And so you talk about multiple states because every time CPS got involved, they had to move to a different state. And that's also a signal of abuse that happens across the board. When a family gets in trouble with the CPS, they move to another state and it continues, they keep moving. So that's par for the course. Then you have the police investigations in several different jurisdictions. So that is in record. You have the school records documenting incidences and concerns. So that's out there. You also have witnesses. And they also gave digital evidence. There's already been a polygraph done, already administered, that speaks of his truth, and they are willing to do another one. And so those are some of the things. I'm sure there's more to back up his evidence or whatever. People seem to need to have all that. So, and it's all there. So there you have it. So I want to go from here. So now you kind of know, I gave a little synopsis of kind of what it looked like and who's involved and the abuse that went on. But yes, I skimmed it. A lot more there, but that's okay. Y'all can investigate that. So I wanted to talk a little bit more of kind of like the psychological trauma that goes along with this. So because a lot of you are triggered by this, a lot of you have experienced trauma, and or if you haven't, to help you understand kind of how it works, how this plays out a little bit. And so this would, after 35 years of working in, with trauma survivors and all the things that, that I've experienced personally. So for victims of abuse, of assault, of trafficking, the shame part is not accidental. It is conditioned. They're conditioning you into that shame. And hopefully that will silence you, right? Or in the long run, make you exit the planet. Okay. So a lot of that's conditioned and purposed to end you eventually, at least keep you silenced. But know also that silence isn't a weakness, because it becomes a survival as well. All right. Then you move into the disassociation that happens. So that fear and self-doubt and fragmented memories, that's normal for trauma response. Okay, so when people are saying, I remember this, but I don't remember, they don't have full memories. That is absolutely normal trauma response, and it doesn't negate their story. A lot of people say, well, are they making up this? What's going, no, this is normal response, and you're not going to remember everything because it's traumatic. We have a built-in system to disassociate from trauma. Okay. So it's a superpower that we have. But when it feels safe, we're able to remember more and more when we're feeling more safe to do so. Okay. Um, most survivors don't speak because they weren't believed the first time, or they're seeing that other people aren't believed, or they're shamed or whatever. They fear retaliation. Sasha, uh, I mean, there's a real threat to them, death threat, right? But yeah, so the fear of retaliation, the fear of ridicule, the fear of not being believed, and all that, um, and fear of being re-traumatized. It's re-traumatizing, right? Um, and also, they've been made to feel like it's their fault or that they've done something wrong. And in Sasha's case, um, in their in their in their traumatizing story case, you know, they were made to hurt others so that so the perpetrators could hold it over them and say, "See, you're just as bad," right? So you have these layers. Um, when a person does speak out publicly, um, it's not just telling their story. It literally, um, they're pushing through a lot to be able to speak out, especially publicly, and especially how Sasha is doing it. But know that if you're in this position and you have your story, I want you to know that you are not alone, and that you're allowed to speak, um, and that you're loved in this safe place. Okay. Um, okay. So where did I want to move from here? We spoke about that, and things to come. I kind of want to look at, do you think, maybe we do a little reading here of um, how is this going to, we know that it's going to, the ripple effect of this, um, that the beautiful ripple effect of this, if we can find something beautiful out of these ashes, that other survivors are finding their voice. Journalists may begin to ask harder questions, um, and that the system of power that's in place is losing their invisibility. Like, it's coming to the surface whether they like it or not. They are doing everything to keep this covered. Okay. Um, and Sasha is bursting through that, bringing it to the surface, and more, I believe more will come as well. And more names, more records, more people involved, more exposure. This is not just a national thing, it's a global thing. And that's why it's like you're seeing a whole system, this whole big trafficking system that's been generations upon generations happening. It's not a new thing. It's old. So it's harder to tear down, right? Um, so anyway, so what should we, okay, I'm going to pause. We're going to throw cards on this, their testimony. Is it really going to really spark and become what really tears down um, the system. And 45. Okay, so powerful reading, you guys. So I'm excited to share with you, and it kind of really does tell the story and where it's leading to. So, starting off, we do have the King of Cups and the Two of Swords. The King of Cups moving into the Two of Swords. And for me, the King of Cups here is speaking of this emotional containment, really trying to appear composed and controlled and respectable. Um, it's truly giving the energy of managing the perception, managing optics, keeping things calm on the surface, even when there's turbulence underneath. So you can see all the turbulence underneath him, right? But then we move into that Two of Swords. And this card is a card of stalemate. It's really showing uh, opposition, avoidance, uh, difficult choices that they truly just don't want to face at all. Obviously, a refusal, um, or like more like an inability to see clearly because uh, it would require them to take some kind of action. They're just trying to keep everything. They don't see. They have the blindfold on. They don't want it. They do not want anybody to see it. They don't want to see it. They, the whole thing. But there is a sense here of being pushed towards something that they can no longer be, that can't be held back any longer. But even though there's a lot of resistance. But looking at these two cards together, it's really a containment, like breaking down of emotional control, meeting unavoidable crossroads, right? So that's where we're at with them. And then we move into the Hangman. This is kind of like the overall card, um, and this is where the reading really shifts for me. When I saw this, for me, really I saw Sasha here. This is an archetype of wisdom through surrender, a willingness to endure discomfort, to place oneself in a vulnerable, even a sacrificial, even like sacrificing oneself to, in order to bring in a new perspective, that perspective. Okay. Also, a hangman doesn't force truth, he reveals it by turning the world upside down. And that's basically what he did. So this card in that position just really illuminates the cost of exposure, and the willingness to be misunderstood in order to reveal what was hidden. Okay. Then we're going to look at the outcome cards. Here we have the outcome cards, the Ten of Swords and the Five of Swords. It's an ending. It's a collapse. You guys, I probably don't even have to give my perspective on these cards right now, but yeah, it is. Where something can no longer be denied, defended, or reassembled. It's truly an exposure of what has already been broken off and behind the scenes. but now exposed, right? And then you have the Five of Swords that speaks of like that hollow victory, winning at all costs or expense of integrity, damage control, reputation battles, power struggles, where there's no winners. No one truly wins. So when you put these two together for this outcome, um, it just talks to what, there may be, obviously there's attempts to control the narrative. The cost is steep for folks. We're going to see that for sure. And the outcome is just not, it's not a clean outcome. But knowing the truth once it's exposed, there's nothing to negotiate. So that's that. So thank you for coming along this ride. It's important to come together collectively in our heart space and in the light, and to continue to not only expose what's in the dark, but also to collectively bring love and light to those who have been traumatized, folks like Sasha and others, and just bring love and light to them as they feel exposed or triggered or all the things. Let them know they're loved and they're seen and they're heard and all the things. All right. Yeah, that's where we'll leave it today. And we'll see you all next time. Love and light to you.